We're here at CyberScoop's Zero Trust Summit with Steve Faehl, Security CTO at Microsoft. Steve, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So, from your perspective, how has OMB's Zero Trust requirements for agencies to adopt things like enterprise-wide identity and access management tools and also multi-factor authentication, how has that impacted the work that you all are doing at Microsoft?
So really the push for centralized authentication and for stronger authentication options has enabled agencies to have better visibility into their zero trust posture. It's given a better, easier on-ramp to zero trust, starting with identity. If it is centralized, that's an easy place that you can begin to enforce some zero trust controls. Now obviously zero trust is a journey. It requires much more than just identity, but it's a great, easy first starting point due to central authentication. What we're also seeing is that as agencies have centralized authentication, they're also able to onboard new capabilities faster. So entitlements management, going from what used to take days to request access to mission resources, now can have just as much or more rigor and more lifecycle management in the process, and only take a few minutes. And so really it's about that centralized visibility, but also about being able to move at the speed of mission.
And then what challenges do you see government agencies still facing trying to maintain a complete inventory of authenticated devices, for example, and ensure that their endpoint detection and response tools are being deployed properly?
Well, one of the challenges is that endpoint detection and response tools are a great source of telemetry. And so in order to effectively know if you have full coverage, you need other sources of telemetry. So it is that layered approach to telemetry, and that's why I think OMB's M2131 log requirements, really for modern log management, you have to have a number of different log sources. You need to be able to rationalize them and pull them together. And that's particularly effective when you're looking at coverage and validating existing state versus expected state. I expect that my EDR is on all of my devices, but now because I have various forms of telemetry, I can actually audit for that. At Microsoft, we've built some of those auditing capabilities into our EDR, such that if you've deployed EDR somewhere, but it's not transmitting, other EDR components will actually alert you to that. So this is something that we've thought about quite a bit in terms of coverage, and adversaries will take advantage of assumptions wherever they can find them. So having an EDR tool and having effective coverage from an EDR tool can be two very different things. When we look at what it takes to maintain an effective inventory, one of the benefits of utilizing authentication and centralized authentication is that you can now require a device to be in inventory before you're able to grant authentication. And that's one of the requirements in M2209, is that a device signal be included in user authentication. So if you take that requirement and you fulfill that with a strong cryptographically validated device identifier, you now have a persistent identification method that can really inform your inventory. And so if you gate access to resources by device registration, in fact, you can accomplish your inventory requirements at the same time as complying with your M2209 requirements.
So next, how well equipped would you say federal agencies are today compared to a couple of years ago to identify and isolate segments of their IT environments that have been compromised?
What we've learned over the last few years is that you can't wait until post-compromise to try and segment your environment. And so proactive segmentation of environment is a great way to keep adversaries at bay and to give you more time to respond as portions of infrastructure are affected at a time. That was one of the takeaways from the SolarWinds attack as well, is that on-premises resources can be used to compromise cloud. And cloud is generally a great source of recovery during cyber response. But if you don't have the right segmentation for administrative roles between on-prem and cloud, that path can be compromised as well and prevent what would otherwise be a manageable recovery. So proactive segmentation is definitely a priority. And as we look at the progress that agencies have made, I think there has been a lot of progress around particular asset isolation. And so if you have an asset level isolation, you know there's risk with a particular user, with a particular device, and you have an EDR tool or some automated response for stronger authentication and protection on an account or an account recovery process. those can be very effective ways to segment at the most granular level and really segment quickly and according to policy. Where we see the most success is not where humans are making the decision to segment, but where that segmentation is automatically done based on risk.
And then lastly, looking ahead, how are OMB's zero trust policies altering the investment strategies at Microsoft as it supports the government?
As Microsoft supports the federal government, we're working very closely with OMB and NIST and others inside of the US government to ensure that the strategies that we're providing to agencies align with the direction of OMB. And as we invest in our zero trust strategies, we're ensuring that we have good coverage and achievable results across all of the pillars of zero trust, so that we're not just focused in one area, but we can quickly align to whatever it is that an agency needs to provide them a path to success. It's an iterative journey, and we want to provide the threat intelligence as well to help them know which areas are worth investing in first, so that we get predictable outcomes. In this stage of the game, we're really in a prove it out phase with zero trust. And so as we're going forward, showing evidence and showing the results of strategy will help agencies make more informed decisions. So that's somewhere that Microsoft is investing heavily.
Well, Steve Faehl, thank you so much for joining us here at the Zero Trust Summit.
Thank you.